Hello, 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 and welcome to Updog Sports Talk. My name is Matt Miller. Joining me today is my very good friend, Justin McGovern. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, ready to talk about our next three conferences here, the ACC, the Big 12, and the Pac 12. So, if you are just joining us, we are in the middle of a series right now where we are recapping the 2024 college football seasons for each conference. If you missed this last week, we recapped the SEC, the Big 10, and independents. This week, we'll be talking about the Big 12, the ACC, and the Pac 12. So, who had a great season? Who failed? Find out in a moment.
And as a show, we pride ourselves on representing everybody, not just the LeBron Jameses, LA Lakers, Dallas Cowboys, Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes's, all them. We like to talk about the little guy too. Um, so we started up during COVID, and we pride ourselves on being a representation of the little voice. So to get right into our show today, Justin, what are we starting
All
with?
right. Well, we are going in alphabetical order. So, we will be kicking off the Big 12 here with the Arizona Wildcats. This is a team that entered last year with very high expectations because they ended 2023 as one of the hottest teams in college football. And the big thing that happened was, their coach left. They made a decent hire, and they brought back their quarter. They still kept their quarterback and a top receiver in Tetaroa McMillan. Why did Arizona fall flat?
I think it was too much change on offense. In terms of like play calling. I mean, this offense looked drastically different. Um, I give them a D grade because they had the talent to compete. They had the talent to be what Arizona State ended up being, which is kind of funny because Arizona State was projected to be bottom of the conference. Um, so I don't really have much to say about Arizona. They just kind of fell flat this year.
I gave Arizona a D as well. Like I tried to give them a little bit of grace because this was a new head coach coming in, but you know they still have these high expectations. I think a lot of people wanted them to succeed, and as a result, just overlooked the transition they're dealing with on the offensive line. You know, the guys they lost at receiver outside of McMillan, they really struggled to find another option there. And then their best running back played against New Mexico, and then was told, "Oh, guess what?" The NCAA came and was like, "Oh, guess what? He might not be eligible, and we'll let you know." And then never ever told them anything on it, so he got held out the rest of the year for no reason. Great job, NCAA. And the defense had transitioned as well. You know, their best corner on defense, he he waited until spring ball and then ended up deciding to stay. It felt like a big win at the time, and then you get in the fall and he just didn't mess with the team. Just stuff like that happened, and that's just why they didn't end up living up to the expectations. And now they enter next year just trying to find their way back to recapture that momentum they had. Next, we look at a team in Arizona that did surpass expectations. The Arizona State Sun Devils, who were predicted dead last in the Big 12 preseason media poll, and they were anything but that. They went 11-3, crashed the college football playoff, and nearly beat the Texas Longhorns in one of the best games of the playoff. So, this is always a program that I looked at and thought, this team has a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential in this program. It's in the Phoenix area. Great recruiting there. Not only is Phoenix a recruiting hotbed, the state of Arizona a recruiting hotbed, but they're also rather close to the state of Texas and the state of California. They now have a presence in Texas thanks to playing those teams. Why is Arizona State potentially primed to become the Big 12's alpha program?
I mean, they have the personnel to push them over the edge. They have probably the most underrated coach in college football. You're not terribly far from LA. You're not terribly far from Texas. Granted, the more athletic parts of Texas are on the other side of the state, so have to go a little further for that. But I give them an A plus. Arizona State had a hell of a year. Scattaboo, arguably the second best running back in the nation. And yeah, I mean, like you said, they crashed the college football playoff. There isn't much else to be said about that. They get my A plus grade for this conference.
Yeah, I gave them an A plus as well for greatly exceeding expectations. If I was in the business of giving out A pluses, I would have given them that. That they were that good.
Yeah.
They now have more momentum than ever. They return a lot of last year's team. Cam Scadaboo is gone. He was their engine, but they got Udo from Army to replace him at running back. This is, the Big 12. We entered this kind of new era of the conference wondering, like, what are they going to do without, like, a truly dominant program? And one may have emerged already now with Arizona State. Watch out. The future's bright in Tempe. Next up is the Baylor Bears. They started out the year pretty rough. Excuse me. They started out the year 2-3, kind of were, struggling a little bit. Actually, I think they started 2-4. And then all of a sudden, they got hot to finish the year. Ended the season on a long winning streak. They did lose the bowl game to LSU, but they found some answers. And now the question is, will Baylor make the college football playoff in 2025?
If they continue the direction they're going, yes. I gave them a B. At one point, I looked up and I was like, wow, Baylor fell off. This is terrible. And then I blinked, and all of a sudden, they're near the top of the conference standings. I mean, I give them a B because of how they started. I wanted to give them a B plus, but that was just a rough start.
I ended up giving them a B plus for the hot finish. I think, sometimes when you're trying to build something, finishing strong can really help with that. And that's what this team did. They finally feel like they have momentum again. And with a lot back next year, this team could be primed to contend even better.
Yeah.
Now we look at another contender, the BYU Cougars. They entered last year kind of just, what was this program going to be in the Big 12? They didn't have high expectations. Were they going to struggle? In my preseason, look at their state of the program, I mentioned BYU lost their physical style of play the last few years, and that's why they had fallen off. I asked the question, could they rediscover that? Rediscover that they did. BYU got their physical edge back and went 11-2. Probably should have made the college football playoff. This team is incredible.
Yeah, I gave them an A plus. I don't normally hand out multiple A pluses, but BYU had one hell of a year. I think they should have been in the college football playoff, but at this point, it's like who would you have taken out? I mean, that one's hard to say, but yeah, they blew out Colorado in the bowl game, and that right there gave me the edge I needed to give them the plus and the A plus.
Yeah, I agree. I gave them an A plus as well. Like, they surpassed expectations big time. And it's not only that they surpassed them and had this great year, they did it in a sustainable manner. I mean, going to the Alamo Bowl really woke me up to what their defense is, because it wasn't something that popped out on TV. But man, when you see those guys play, they are big, they are physical, and they are fast. That defense is incredible. And they bring still bring a good amount of those guys back. They lose some starters, but they had a lot of depth. For BYU to make the playoff in 2025, you just need to find some solutions on offense.
Yep.
Now we come home. Our hometown team, the Cincinnati Bearcats. It started out really good. Like they were, I believe they were 5-1 at one point, or 5-2, one of those. They were 5-1, 5-2. Just came off a win over Arizona State, looking good, and then they ended the year with a total collapse. What happened?
I mean, the same issues that plagued them last year. They couldn't get the ball moving in the red zone. Defense kind of fell apart. They had a few key injuries on the defense, so I think that had a big part to play. When your best player, Don Corleone, gets hurt, he was a potential first rounder. He came back. I don't know where he's gonna be projected after next season, but I mean, when you lose him, that's a big hole. Not just because he's a big man, but like talent wise, that's a big hole to fill. I give them a C-. They did have that hot start. They fixed a lot of the issues that plagued them last year, which is how they were able to start so hot. But I couldn't really give above that just because they just massively fell off. I mean, they ended up near the middle of the conference, which is big for them. Last year, they were at the very bottom. This year, they're moving up, so progress is made. Satterfield finds a way to save his job once again. Maybe he fails up and can move them up a few more spots and get another job, and so we can get Luke Fickell back. But UC continues to improve. They just need to be consistent throughout the whole year.
Yeah, and I think another key was just like Sorsby did a pretty good job early in the year, took care of the ball really well, and then all of a sudden he fell off the wagon nearly.
Yeah,
started turning the ball over a lot.
He seemed to be a better fit for the offense, and then as you put, he turned the ball over a lot. There was that one game, I think it was against Baylor. It was just turnover after turnover after turnover at the end of the game.
Was it the West Virginia game you were
at?
It
was the West Virginia game. I went to the Baylor game the year before that. And it was just like they were in the lead, they were controlling that game, and all of a sudden he just kept turning the ball over, and it was frustrating. But back to you.
By the way, I don't know if we get the same sponsored ads, but I still get sponsored ads from Fox of Cincinnati's punter decking a West Virginia returner in that game.
I don't think we get the same sponsored ads. I haven't seen that one in a little bit.
That's disappointing because that one's very funny. Next, we go to one of the biggest names in this conference, one of the most talked about programs, the Colorado Buffaloes. They ended last year. No one really knew what to make of them. They had some talent at some spots, but also a lot of question marks. And they ended up answering a lot of them. They went 9-4, got back to a bowl game. It was a pretty solid year.
Yeah, I think people tend to forget that this team was 1-9. I don't know what's going on with my camera.
That they were 1-11 in 2021. I'll keep talking just to distract people from your thing. I think it only still shows the speaker anyways. As Mac goes off the camera. But yeah, Colorado was 1-11 in 2020. I think it was actually 2022. So they improved in 2023. It became a lot really quick for some people. And that's kind of where the hate came in. But then, this past year, they've actually made the huge steps in the right direction. 5-win improvement, reached the bowl game. And, they won a lot of games pretty easily. Now, I think the big question moving forward for them is going to be how do they how they find that next level of success. They're continuing to build at positions they were weak at, like the offensive line. They're continuing to build there. Sorting out running back is another big key. But obviously now they lose their top talents in Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter, along with some other guys on that team. I give them an A minus. Matt, now that you're back with us,
Technical difficulties over here. I give him a B minus. I think expectations were so high that I couldn't put him in the A range. Everyone's expecting this team to win championships right away, and that's just not possible when you go from one or so wins consistently, and then now they're 9 wins and making bowl games. You got to give them some props. Shador didn't play as well as I thought he was going to this year. Travis Hunter played on par. Horn played on par. The defense
on par. I mean, he won the Heisman, so
yeah. Well, I mean, that was kind of expected from him. But defensively, there's still holes, and they lost all of their huge names. They did get who's the quarterback they got?
Caden Salter.
Yeah, they got Salter, who had a down year at Liberty, but we'll get to that in a different show. I think he can play better than what Shador did, but who knows if they have the weapons to do it now. But Colorado, I mean, to go from from a trash program to all of a sudden consistently at or near the top of the conference, you got to give it to them. So I go B minus just because they did have the 4 losses and then got blown out by BYU.
Very nice. Now we look at the Houston Cougars entering year 1 under Willie Fritz. There was a lot of rebuilding going on here. A lot of roster turnover, a lot to sort out. They have going 4-8. How would you grade their season?
I went with a D. It would have been a D plus if they could have negotiated with the NFL to be able to use the Houston Oilers uniforms. But I give them a D. They didn't
No, Matt, you missed it. You missed it. They got him back.
But didn't they force it in?
Yeah. They said
the NFL was yeah. So, but I give them a D. 4-8's not a good season. I mean, you didn't finish last, so I guess there's that. But I mean, this program was looking up and up for a while, and then I know they got new coaching staff and stuff, but seems like they took a step back this year.
Man, that was a little harsh. This is their first year there, Matt. I give them a C because I think there are a few decent highlights in here. They beat TCU, they beat Kansas State, they beat 2 teams in the top of the conference when they did win. So I'll give them that. They had a lot to sort out on offense. This is a first year coaching staff, but I'm not sure. The offensive coordinator hire was very confusing, and they corrected that this offseason. He was the guy that the year before at Mississippi State tried to turn a former Mike Leach team, RIP, into a ground and pound offense immediately. So I don't know why they hired that guy, but he's out of there now. I still think Houston is the Big 12 sleeping giant, and I think this era will eventually take off. I just think it's going to take some work because the end of the Dana Holgorsen era kind of fell off a little bit.
Yeah.
Now we look at the Iowa State Cyclones. They went 11-3, made the Big 12 championship. 11 wins is the most wins in program history. 2024 might have been Iowa State's best season ever.
I would agree with that. I give them an A, not an A plus, for the sole fact that at one point they looked like they were going to completely run away with this conference and not look back. And they took a couple of losses and then fell back to the rest of the pack. But other than that, I mean, they had a great year. They have great program. It doesn't seem like the Texases and Oklahomas are uh, going to bully them around anymore. So it looks like Iowa State is going to be at or near the top for quite some time in the Big 12.
Yeah, I thought about docking them for that rough 2-game stretch where they lost to Kansas and Texas Tech, but in the end, this is one of the best seasons they've ever had in program history. Most wins ever. I ended up giving it an A+ for that. This was a historic season for the Cyclones. And the thing is, like, they actually return a good amount of this team next year, so they're still going to be up there. Now, they're going to need to figure out the culprit of those losses, which was the run defense. I think they really struggled in that department. That was this team's Achilles heel. So we need to figure that out. But yeah, this team, Matt Campbell is building something really good here. And he has stuck around for a long time. And now you might continue to see the benefit of that.
Yeah, I'm excited. They need to bring back the old logo, but that's my only
complaint. Bring back the old logo. Next, we look at the Kansas Jayhawks. This is a team that entered the season with high expectations. We even thought they could contend for the Big 12 championship. They had a lot of players back, the same players trying to run the same offense, and it just didn't work. They went 5-7. Now, in this 5-7 record was their wild end of the season where they upset 3 straight ranked teams, only to collapse against Baylor in the last game of the year in the Missile Bowl game. Kansas was the chaos team in this conference. Why did they regress?
I'm not entirely sure. They had the maybe it was their offense coordinator, but they had their quarterback back, and he was healthy for at least beginning of the year. They had most of their offense back, so they should have done well. I give them a C. It could have been worse, I guess, but they were one of the few teams where we were like, well, you can chalk Kansas up to the top of the division or the conference.
Yeah, Daniels was actually healthy the entire year too, ironically enough.
Didn't he get hurt at the end of the year?
No.
Oh, well, never mind.
Yeah, that was the thing. He was healthy all year, so that was even a huge part of it. But just something was off to start the year. I think it just could have been an install with a new offensive coordinator trying to run an offense or what, but they were just a step off all early in the season, and that cost them in a lot of tight losses. They lost a lot of one-score games. And then late in the year, they turned it around and won a bunch of one-score games before taking their biggest blowout loss of the year to end the year. The Baylor game at the end really blows my mind. I gave them a C- for that. They had the talent and just underachieved, and that was very disappointing for Kansas football. Now we go to the other part of the Sunflower State. We look at the Kansas State Wildcats. They were projected to be one of the top Big 12 teams, but they ended up being just solid 9-4. Didn't make the Big 12 championship. Did Kansas State underachieve in 2024?
I think so, but I'll be honest with you. I was a Will Howard hater the past 2 years. I think he masked some issues on this offense that after he left that were blatantly obvious. 9-4 is not terrible, but this is a deep conference, so 9-4 is not really going to cut it.
Yeah.
I gave him a C+. I don't know if I said that.
Oh, I gave him a B-. They were decent, but they definitely had some flaws. Avery Johnson, who they ran Will Howard out for, he had some flaws to his game. He definitely made some mistakes, had some learning moments in there, I would say. They could run the ball really well. Passing game was inconsistent. Defense was not as good as we thought they would be. they kind of struggled a little bit more on that side of the ball than we expected. And I think that was part of why, they didn't quite reach the Big 12 championship expectations. But overall, it was a decent year. Kansas State's still going to be one of the top teams in this conference year in and year out. So, give your young quarterback some experience. He has some experience now. Keep developing him. And who knows, I think they're actually quietly considered one of the Big 12 favorites right now on early betting lines for 2025. So, this team could still crash college ball playoff. Watch out for that. Now we go to one of the most mysterious collapses of the year. Oklahoma State was, I think, chalked by both of us to reach Big 12 championship. They returned a lot of starters from a really good team. And the window seemed wide open for them to win the Big 12. Instead, they dropped to 3-9, not winning a single conference game. I mean, what a shocking collapse this was.
Oh, that was your cue to send it over to me, wasn't it? I was handling some technical difficulties on this end. I missed the team that we were talking about.
Oklahoma State.
Oh yeah, I give them an F. They had a
Come
terrible
on,
year.
Matt.
My bad. I give them an F. Oklahoma State just had a terrible year. They went from perennial contender in this conference to now they're a cellar dweller. There's no way to put it. They just flat out tripped at the starting gate and never got up.
Yeah, I mean, they had Ollie Gordon back, but just couldn't utilize his talents. The offensive line was all back. They played great in 2023 and just regressed to such a shocking level. Like, this team was just regression all across the board. Every position just seemed to get worse. And that's not something you usually see from a Mike Gundy team. It led to the, on 3 graphic standoff this offseason. Ultimately, Gundy ended up, basically cleaning house from every other part of the staff, and they're going to try to remake themselves a little bit. This is going to be a very interesting team to watch in 2025 to see where they go from here. Do they find a lot of answers and instantly get back to the top of the Big 12, or are they stuck down here? And did the Gundy era run its course? That's going to be a huge question. But definitely was a shocking season, to say the least. Now, we go to our next Big 12 team, the TCU Horned Frogs. TCU has been one of the more wild teams to pay attention to the last few years. They had the national title run where they forced a lot of turnovers, had a huge turnover margin, had won a ton of one-score games. And then last year, and then the next year, it all flipped. They had negative turnover margin, lost all the one-score games, and it was just like, what does normal look like for this team? What does this team look like if they just have a balanced turnover margin and win some but not all of their one-score games? I think we found this out this year. They went 9-4. They were a very solid team. I think a lot of people, they got kind of buried early on. A lot of people buried them when they lost to Houston, and that was a tough loss, but they really rebounded after that Houston loss, though.
Oh yeah, I give them a B-. This was definitely a bounce back year. Maybe to not to what people would want them to be at after making the national championship. But after that national championship, they lost a lot of players to the draft or graduation or transfers. And then that's why they fell off the
that
year
national
after.
championship team was a very, very senior heavy team.
Oh yeah. And this year was a solid bounce back year. I'm gonna give him a B minus, and I give him the minus just because of that Houston loss.
I give him a B plus. I liked how the end of the year. 9-4 is a good record. Just very solid across the board. And now we look and see, what do they look like in 2025? Did they go to the top of the Big 12? Or did they regress again? That'll be the question.
Yeah.
Next, we look at the Texas Tech Red Raiders. This season for Texas Tech got off to quite the inauspicious start. They opened the season having to stop their former quarterback, Maverick McIver, from converting a 2-point conversion to beat Abilene Christian. Then they went on the road to Washington State and got crushed. Without the running back, but still got crushed. It was not looking good for Texas Tech. And, they ended up rebounding a little bit. They went 8-5, figured out a lot of answers. Now the question is, with a lot, their top 5 returning production for 2025, all aboard the Texas Tech hype train?
I am. I like what I see from them. They bounce back, and I give them a C plus. They were up and down most of this year, but they ended the year fairly nice. So for that, I give them a C plus. But you got to be a little bit more competitive if you want to be in the upper echelon of this conference.
I think another big thing, because the margins are so thin, Texas Tech has got to stop having these, what are they doing losses. Every year it feels like they just have one. And last year it was losing by 30 at home to Baylor. Losing by that kind of margin at home is rough. So, that's going to be the kind of thing they're going to need to fix. But I think the future's looking pretty good in Lubbock. And they very much showcased their great facilities the other day as a reminder to recruits that, hey, maybe you should come here, not Arizona State. Next, we look at the UCF Knights. It felt like there's a lot of momentum with this program entering last fall season. We thought, maybe they could be a sleeper team that could in the conference. Well, they went 4-8. Why did the Gus Bus crash?
It just ran out of gas. They got KJ Jefferson in, and I don't think he played the entire year. I'm pretty sure they moved parts around throughout the year. I was looking forward to Space University rocketing their way up the conference standings.
Well, here's the thing, though, because even though they were bad, their space game was still ridiculous. Arizona was their victim for that, and I think they won that game by 50.
But still, I give them a D minus. They had a decent amount of expectations, and then they just couldn't settle on their roster. And I know you gotta change things up a little bit, but it seems like the quarterback position has to be one that's stable, and that was not a stable force this year.
Yeah, they had a lot of eggs in the KJ Jefferson basket, and it just did not work. He struggled a lot. It seems, his potential early in his career never really panned out. So he struggled a lot. They tried to find different answers there, never really found any. And on the defensive side of the ball, they just couldn't get stops. And, they found themselves in the wrong end of a lot of shootouts. But, you're going to find yourself in that spot when most of your offense is running the ball and you can't play defense. That was what happened there. I gave him a D minus as well. The Gus Bus is no more because I think he left to be Florida State's offensive coordinator, one of those moves where I'm going to move before I get fired kind of thing.
Yeah, so it doesn't taint his reputation, although I think it's a little too late at that.
But they brought back Scott Frost.
Nice.
What I don't understand, though, is why did they hire Alex Grinch as their defensive coordinator?
The world will never know.
So
I have a
we'll
feeling
see what
that's not going to
happens.
last long.
I'll do my. I'm gonna get my article series going on coaching grades soon, and I'll be mentioning that to say the least. Now we look at another team that had a lot of hype entering the year. The Utah Utes were considered one of the favorites to win the Big 12. They had Cam Rising back, and everything was going to be good. Cam Rising had basically one healthy game against the FBS foe against Baylor, and then got hurt again. And that led to a shocking collapse. Utah fell apart to 5-7, didn't even reach a bowl. Just what a shockingly bad year for a Kyle Whittingham team.
Yeah, I think it's a fluke season. Once Rising went down, like you said they were one of the favorites. They were the favorite, heavy favorite to win the Big 12. And then when Rising went down, it didn't seem like they gave accurate timelines. It seemed like the coaching staff and the team were just waiting for him to come back, and he just didn't. And like
he came back for I think he came back for a half against Arizona State. It wasn't working, and then that was it.
And so I give him a D-. I mean, you can't finish fourth worst team in the conference when you're the clear-cut favorite to win. Something's got to give.
Yeah, I gave him a D+. I gave him a little bit of an injury excuse bump, but it only got them to a D+ because this is still a massively disappointing year. I think how unimaginative their offense has been got exposed a lot in the last 2 years. And I think that's been a huge problem for them. It's been a thing that's been holding them back. Like at one point, even before their bye week, their star running back was getting frustrated with how their offense was. So that definitely says a bad sign. Now, this could be a good buy low team entering 2025.
Yeah.
They got a new offensive coordinator. They're getting some new ideas. Not only that, but they're also bringing in an exciting quarterback in Devon Dampier for New Mexico. So this offense is going to be really interesting to watch next season. Finally, after such a rough run.
They also have a 3-star quarterback. I can't remember if he's transferring in or if he's a recruit, but he ran like a 10.68. I don't remember the length that he ran. I remember the time, but trust me, it's super fast. This guy can run. So they'll have some options at quarterback.
Yeah. Definitely some ways to get some juice back to the offense and help out their defense, because we know their defense is going to be salty as ever.
Yeah.
We wrap up the Big 12 with the West Virginia Mountaineers. Neil Brown seemed infireable until he wasn't. West Virginia faced a tougher schedule, and there just was never a moment where they felt like a true contender under Neil Brown. They were only okay, and they went 6-7 this year. How would you grade them?
I gave them a D-. I mean, they had so much promise. That Penn State West Virginia game was supposed to be one of the biggest games of the year, and they did not deliver. And in fact, they didn't really deliver most of the year. They got lucky against a win against UC on some late turnovers and some bad calls. And frankly, I think the best thing that they did all season and off season so far is hire Rich Rod. Their future looks very promising with him back at the helm. There's a lot of excitement in Morgantown. Maybe Updog could make a trip out there next year. Who knows? But
I can tell you, I will be there next year. I will be going to the Colorado game.
I plan on going. I don't know. Well, that's a conversation when we get closer. But Yeah, I give him a D- for this past season. A+
Yeah.
for off season so far though.
Yeah, what's old is new at West Virginia.
Yeah.
But I am excited. This is the most buzz that we've had around the West Virginia program in a long time.
We're verified on Twitter. We're verified on Instagram and Threads and Facebook. Still working on verification on TikTok, so that's probably gonna be a little bit. But
We're real people.
yeah, and we're real business.
And Threads, I guess, still a thing.
Yeah. Not a whole lot of action on there. Most of my notifications are picked for you, and I don't know how to get rid of those. And the internet keeps telling me one thing, and I try to do it, and that setting's already off, so I don't know how I get notifications.
I still find it very funny that Threads, they wanted to copy Twitter, but they didn't realize what group of people, what demographic goes to Twitter, which the main demographic of Twitter, the main reason why it even exists is because of sports fans. And the whole thread setup
And degenerates.
is basically like terrible for sports fans because I remember seeing like nothing is in chronological order. You can't even choose what you see on there. Like it just sounds all bad.
Yeah, we're on there just for the sake of being on there because it's free and it's included with Instagram and Facebook.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, so exciting things over here at Updog Sports Talk.
Yeah.
You can find us on all of those platforms, including Podbean, Spotify, iHeart, YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts. Wherever you listen to podcasts, we're there. We're on social media. We're a YouTube channel. So yeah, like, subscribe, show some love, tell your friends about us. We're trying to grow this thing and give representation to all. So America, and anything else, Justin?
No, that's it. America, get ready because I believe we're going to be talking about the American Conference next time.
Nice. I just read a whole article about them yesterday, and it was really long. And I'm excited to share some thoughts on Tulane. But yeah, that's it. We'll catch you guys next time. See you around.